we're going to move away from graphing, and instead what we're going to do is we're going to just create an inequality that represents the scenario. Okay, so we're going to move away from graphing and that for a bit. So in a beanbag toss game, okay, so this is a representation of what I think it would be, right? Janelle scores 5 points for landing on a round target and 8 points for landing on a square target. So maybe what I can do is I can go ahead and just make a square target real quick, right? So let's see, this would be a square target. Okay, and then we'll just fill it with some black to make it look like it's an actual thing. There you go. Hey, look at that. That's not bad. That's really horrible. Okay, so anyway, it's a square target, right? Just pretend that's what it is, and we know that she is going to score 5 points every time that she goes into a round target, and then for the square target, she gets 8 points. All right. So as I'm reading this, I like to just pause and just write down, whatever I can. Maybe I'll use it, maybe not. All right. She needs more than 50 points to win, and it's saying let X represent the number of times Janelle lands on a round target. So we're gonna say let X equal number of times in round target, and similarly let Y, it says, represent the number of times in the square target, right? So we have two variables because we have two different targets, one's round and one's square, and it says write an inequality to represent the situation. Okay, so in our inequality, what is the goal that this person Janelle is trying to do? Well, she's trying to score points, and it says that if we're dealing with an inequality, remember we have two different, well, I'm sorry, we have four different inequality symbols that we can use, and we can probably take this down to about two of them. So we can eliminate two of them right off the bat just by looking at specific words, right? She needs more than. Okay, now when you think about more than, which symbol are you thinking about? I'm thinking about greater than. Okay, which means that we can actually get rid of the less than symbols because she doesn't want to score less than 50, she wants to score more than 50. And I realized that I totally just wrote the same thing twice here, so let me just make sure we just change this up, right? So we have now two inequalities. Now if you're scoring more than 50, okay, does she just want to score 50? No. So she wants to score like 51, 52, 53. If they were saying like at least 50, that means that she's satisfied with getting 50 points, or even more if she wants to. But more than 50 means that she cannot just get 50. She doesn't want to settle for that. So this actually ends up being the inequality symbol that we're going to use. So I know that here they're going to have a more than 50. Okay. Now, right below that, what I'm going to write is this is the number of points. Okay. And it's very important that we understand that because everything on this side must be about points. Okay, and before we get into that, we need to discuss, well, what are the points made? Like, how do you get a point? Well, you get a point by either throwing it in a round target. Okay, that's the X, and, or I should really say, or you can get it in by throwing it into a square target. Right? Now it doesn't matter if you throw a couple into the round or a couple into the square. All that matters is that when you add up all the points, they need to be more than 50. So we're going to be adding up. Okay. Now these X and these Y's don't represent the number of points. Okay. This just represents the number of times that you throw it into a round target. So if they throw it 3 times in a round target, how much points would they have gotten? Well, how many points do they get for pointing into a round target? And that's in the first sentence here. Janelle scores 5 points for landing on a round target. So if I threw it 3 times in a round target, each one being 5 points, we get 5, 5, 5, or 5 times 3, which is 15 points, which is not represented here. So what I'm missing is that we're missing the number of points that you get per chance or each time that you put it in here. So this gives you the total points for the round target, Okay, and I know that you're eagerly just like, okay, so this is 8y, right? But make sure you understand why it's 8y, right? This is the total points, 8 points each time. So if y was 2, that means that I threw it into the square target twice. 2 times 8 would give me 16 points. So the total points for square target, okay? And this is actually the inequality symbol, or the inequality that we're gonna, not the symbol, but the inequality that we're gonna use to represent this. Now, if you had a graph, we could totally graph it and do all that other great stuff and see like the different combinations that we could use in order to get more than 50 points, but they're not asking that of us, so we're gonna keep it like this. All right, so this one now is, what is the graph of the solution? Okay, so again, we aren't going to be graphing, but we're going to be rearranging and then trying to find a graph. So here we have 5x plus 8y is greater than 50. Okay, and so graph, we know that we want to just get it in slope intercept form. And the way that we do that is, that's kind of like the y equals mx plus b, even though we're not going to have the equal sign and this stuff. It's like the general, like it's like the skeleton that we want, right? So we're going to keep the y, the positive 8y, we're gonna leave it right there, and we're gonna move this 5x over because we don't want him next to him. So hold on a second, my thing is acting crazy. Here we go. So we're gonna subtract 5x from both sides. And then down comes this 8y. So 8y comes straight down. The greater than symbol comes down. Okay, we cannot combine these. Notice now for a lot of these we cannot combine them. So negative 5x goes first, okay, because this has an x, this does not, plus 50. And then we're going to then divide each side by 8. This is going to get rid of the 8's on that's attached to the y. So these are the inverse operations. And we get y is greater than negative 5 over 8. This is going to be our slope, so we're going to keep that as a fraction, plus, I'm going to use my calculator. Okay, so I'm going to use 50 divided by 8, and we get 6.25. Okay, so now, if we were to graph this, I'm going to write this here, y is greater than negative 5 over 8x plus 6.25. Don't even look at the graphs. Here's what we're going to do first, okay? Let's look at everything that we do know. So what does this tell you? Okay, start on the y-axis. So this is the starting point. Okay, what does this tell you? That tells you that we're going to be going, let me use a different color, we're going to be going down 5, but we're going to be going right by 8 units. Okay, this right here is a greater than. Okay, so then what kind of line is this going to be? Like a dashed or a solid? It does not have a solid line underneath. It's not an equal to. So then this is going to be a dotted line. And it's a greater than symbol, so we're going to shade above. Okay, so a lot of things going on. So let's first start here, 6.25. So if you look at the graphs, okay, you'll see that this is where 6 is, but the graph is a little bit higher, so this is a possibility. Right? Let's go ahead and just erase that. You'll see here it's exactly at 6, so this is not a possibility. And then here we have a little bit above 6. Okay, so this is a possibility, right? What we're then not going to do is, let me just get rid of these actually, is then we have to look at the next thing I would look at if it's already graphed is literally is it a dotted or a dashed. So this is both dotted, this is both dotted. Okay, so still the same possibilities. One of them has to be shaded above, okay, which we can't actually determine that yet because we don't really know if it's the correct direction. So looking here, we're going to be going down 5, so it looks like they went down 5, 1 2 3 4 5, and over 8. All right, it looks like all of that is correct. 1 2 3 4 5 over 8, 1 2 3 4 5 over 8. Okay, and so then now if we're going to be going downwards, shading above means if I put my little man on the left hand side and he's walking down the stairs, where would his above be? Right, so if he's going down the stairs, This would be his below, and this would be his above. So making this the correct one. All right, and that's how you choose the graph of an inequality, just by breaking everything down and seeing what would match.